that first party I was booed. They booed me because I expected the party to turn up later than it did. Mm-hmm. They were lit by 10:30 because people rocked with us. So I'm expecting people to filter in and be lit by like 11:30, 12. It's 10:30. The basement is packed. I'm playing warm-up music. And the people that booed me don't remember they booed me because these are some of my closest friends today. I wouldn't say closest friends, but I would say like these are people that are really close acquaintances to this day. But they booed me my first party. They were like, nah, turn this up, boo. And from that moment, the next party I did, I killed it. I just was like, this is me. I'm just going to be me. Like, I'm not going to plan anything out. Like, it is what it is. That moment, Silva Soundz was born.
Hey everyone, it's Cam Sakara. Welcome to the Angle of Sound podcast. Today we have with us a very special guest by way of Brooklyn, New York. He is a DJ, producer, musician. I'd like to welcome Silva Soundz.
What's up, everybody? I'm Silva Soundz, DJ, international DJ, music producer, musical multi-hyphenate.
So I know you're born and raised in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So what would you say was the musical landscape around you like growing up, and how did it create the blueprint for who you are today as a creative?
That's a good question. I mean, Brooklyn was always, I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s. Brooklyn was heavy, around that time, hip-hop and R&B for sure was like the landscape of what was going on and what I grew up around. But also at the same time, like what my parents played in the house was a lot of R&B and jazz. They love jazz. My mom loves balladeers and 80s ballads, and my dad is heavy into Latin jazz, and he played a lot of salsa and stuff around the house. So it was a lot of things put together that kind of shaped my musical view. But for sure, I would definitely say I love R&B. That's my vibe for sure.
And who would you say is one of your first memories of music, artist? Who you think of immediately?
Artists?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good question. That I remember, John Legend. That was my first album.
Okay.
That I went to go buy. I remember I walked across over the bridge. I know artists earlier than that, but personally, it was John Legend. I walked over the bridge, Brooklyn Bridge, to J&R Music World, and I went and bought his Ordinary People album when it came out. And that was my first album I've ever bought. I remember I went home, I had a little CD player at the time with remember the over-ear headphones?
Yeah, I remember.
I had the over-ear headphones, and I just listened to the entire album from start to finish, walking back to Brooklyn, over across the Brooklyn Bridge from Fort Greene. So I walked from downtown Manhattan to Fort Greene, just listened to the whole thing. So that's one of my earliest memories.
So you're destined for greatness. John Legend is your first. That's crazy.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Cam. Thank you.
And so your first introduction in participating in music yourself, I know you said you grew up in church, singing and playing piano.
Singing is, take it easy.
Which one came first?
Take it easy. I was in children's choir first. I was.
Yeah, you said you used to be a good singer, though, right?
I think I was a good singer. I would say I was a good singer, yeah. But don't tell everybody that.
That you were a singer?
Yeah, for sure.
But what age would you say that you started singing and then playing piano?
Okay, so I was singing in children's choir. I was in, I went to Emmanuel Baptist Church. Shout out EBC in the building. I was in Emmanuel Baptist Church, and from a kid, I remember. And I was in children's group, and then we went to children's choir. We had a choir leader named Mr. Brian. Rest in peace, Mr. Brian. Unfortunately, he passed. But he led us, and that's when I really... Before that, I was into music. I was always playing stuff in the house, whatever. But singing, that was my introduction to singing in children's choir. He passed when I was probably 10. And I think that was right around the time of puberty where it kind of started. My voice was changing. So and because he passed, I don't think I wanted to go back to children's choir because it was a little tough to deal with the loss. Mm-hmm. And it kind of messed with me a little bit. And I think at the time when my voice changed and not having that guidance into that's kind of steered me away from that a little bit more. But I also, around the same time, started music lessons and playing piano. So I started singing first, kind of gave that up in choir, and then I made it to music. But I was always a musician first, for sure.
So piano around 10?
Piano was not my 9th birthday. My parents gave me a shout out to my parents. They as a birthday gift, they signed me up for piano lessons. But it started from like early on. I was just banging on pots and pans in the house at like 2, 3 years old. They just knew this kid was just into music. Like he was made for music. It was the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I always tell the story. And the parade would go by and put it on TV. I'd pull out all the pots and pans and have forks and knives and just bang. Bang on things. And most parents would be like, oh, he's just making noise. But to me, it was music. So they knew I was into music. And then from there, the kind of music, they knew I was always into it. So they gave me piano lessons at 9 years old.
So coming up, singing and playing in church.
Let's not do the singing thing. Okay.
Okay. So when did you say you started to understand the power of music and its ability to move people? And is there a specific moment you can recall?
I always loved praise and worship in church. That was my favorite part. My mom used to she would go to the early services. When I'm talking, I never really got to go to the 11 o'clock till I was older, but like early, like the 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. services were her thing. But at that time, praise and worship was going on, and she loved praise and worship at the time. She always talks about, even now, like that was her favorite part of like Emmanuel and EBC was just the singers and the music of it, the musicality of it, and kind of how that got everybody kind of in the spirit. And I think that was my favorite thing too. And I saw the way music moved people, and that's what kind of drove me to it. So yeah.
And then, like from your childhood, what was like the defining moment that you knew you wanted to make a career out of music?
11th grade, I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. I was doing soccer at the same time. I thought I was going to be a soccer star. I was really, really good at soccer. Like a lot of people don't know that, but I was really, really good. Played basketball at the same time. At the same time, also some people don't know I was also a dancer. I danced too. All of that at the same time happening, I tore my meniscus in my left leg. Mm-hmm. And I remember my parents telling me, I'll never forget this. They were like, musicians don't retire, they get old. And the idea was that athletes at a certain point have to retire. Your body will make you retire at a certain point. You can't play forever. But musicians, I was doing everything at the same time. Musicians have a choice to go until they're 90, or until their hands don't work anymore. You know what I mean? And just the idea of that, my body doesn't dictate where my career goes, is kind of what drove me to keep pursuing music. And at that point I was like, this is all cool and all, but like I have a gift with this music thing and I think I should take it further.
Okay. And that's a perfect segue because I know you went to Performing Arts High School.
Yeah, PPAS. Shout out PPAS in the building.
And so what informed your decision to go there? And then also for that high school, you had to have a specific major? Yeah. Yeah. So I know you said you went for dance originally. Yeah. So what made you decide you wanted to go there? And then tell me more about that.
So this is it's a complex story how I even got there. But I went to 261 in elementary school, and that's where originally I got introduced to music. After music, after 261, I ended up getting into a couple fights as a kid on some like Will Smith-ish, you know what I'm saying? Like got too many fights. My mom said I had to move, but still cool with those guys to this day now. But moving into, I ended up having to go to my mom's school, which was PS 321 in Brooklyn. And I was introduced to different opportunities at that school. I never knew there were opportunities to go to Performing Arts High School, but there were opportunities at that school that people were saying, oh, you can go to this middle school, this middle school. And from there, I went to New Voices Middle School, which was, and I wanted to go there for music. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really dope. I ended up going there. That's how I met my best friend Nick and everybody there, right? But I went in for music, had the idea of doing music. I auditioned for music, and then I got there. In 6th grade, they make you take every major just to get an introduction to everything. I fell in love with dance because I fell in love with performing. And specifically, I was a guy's guy, so it wasn't like I was sitting there excited to do like dance, but I loved I remember we made like our first senior piece that we did in middle school was with my boy Edward, and he was another dude. He was another guy's guy, but we did like a martial arts style dance, and it was like almost capoeira-esque, like kind of. But my teacher, shout out Mr. Kerr, I'll never forget you. He held it down. But the idea was that like performing could be our thing, and I didn't have to lose my masculinity by doing that. Like I was very masculine when it came to that in that sense. From there, I was open to the opportunities of going to schools like PPAS, LaGuardia, Talent Unlimited, and Frank Sinatra. I auditioned for PPAS in dance, and I'll never forget, shout out Mr. Blanford, Hassan. He looked out for me from day one. He kind of saw me and mentored me in that program and kind of nurtured the performing artist in my spirit. And that's what really, I was drawn to that school. Because all the other schools, they'll teach you technique. They'll teach you whatever you want to learn. But I think it was the performance aspect. Like kids that went to PPAS, like they're taking off. Like this was the only school where you were allowed to work as a high schooler. So like my best friend in high school, Joseph Foster, he was an actor. If you ever watched the movie Doubt, he was the main character in Doubt with Meryl Streep. He went to the school and we had a thing called On Location where actors and dancers and musicians could go work on site instead of having to go into the major. So I just admired that, and that's what drew me to that high school. At PPAS, I fell in love with African dance. Mm-hmm. That's what drew me. Because at first I wasn't interested in all the other styles, right? But like African dance spoke to me in a way that just was like, this feels like it's me. And my boy Dylan was there. Shout out Dylan, shout out Jamie. And it just was a dope experience to like learn how to perform and use your whole body. And I think that I connected with the musicians because we had live musicians in the class. And I think that aspect of just like the entire production of things was what intrigued me, not just one specific thing. So how the music influenced the dance, how the dance influenced the lighting, how the lighting influenced the audience. Like I think it was the whole production aspect of it is what made me interested in that whole thing. So I know it's a long story, but I hope I wrapped it up in a bow.
No, you did. Yeah, like so like focusing on like the performance aspect of it. That's what like the passion was.
That's what the passion was.
And so I know you went there originally, right, for dance, but then you said you tore your meniscus.
I tore my meniscus junior year.
And then so you switched to piano?
So shout out to Mr. Vassallo. He was the VP at the time. At that time, I was still doing dance, but like I tore my meniscus, so I couldn't dance at all in junior year. So they allowed me to do like kind of an internship for Mr. Blanford Hassan at the time. And in that time, we were also looking at music. So I shadowed Mr. Vassallo at the time, who was the VP of the school, but he was a classically trained pianist. So I shadowed him and learned from him. And I shadowed Mr. Bill, who, rest in peace, he worked at the Ailey School too, but he was a pianist. And the whole idea was that I could learn music there and while still continuing to go, because that was my passion. Everyone knew it. I was playing piano in back alleys of school. You know what I mean? Like everyone knew that was my thing. Like, so I got to study music at the same time for the final years or so. At the same time, when my leg got better, I finally got to finish in dance stuff senior year. But my focus at that point was music.
And so getting into like you talking about the performance aspect and like the physicality of dance, using your whole body to express. When you tore your meniscus and was focusing more on piano, how did you then like apply those performance techniques and that physicality to how you approached playing the piano?
I think I looked at it more of like, you take yourself out of your individual position and you look at the entire thing. So as a musician, sometimes we get focused on exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it, but we don't look up. We don't look what's going on in the crowd. We don't necessarily interact with the crowd, and I think that's what I learned from dance the most. Is being able to look up and feel the crowd and translating that now to what I'm doing DJing-wise. It's like, that's my niche. I can feel what's going on. I can influence what's going on in the crowd. So when it came to music and piano, I was playing and I was here, but I was also here, connecting and looking and vibing and feeling emotions of the crowd and kind of putting that into my work. So I think taking that aspect helped me get there, for sure.
So like learning, because I know like with your DJing, like reading the room and mic presence, that's a big part of the way you approach DJing. And so I know, like I said, you're from Brooklyn. You went to performing arts school in Manhattan. And so in Manhattan, I know in your school you were surrounded by people from all different types of places.
Oh, yeah.
So how did being a part of that environment...
That's all good.
Hey, I forgot I had that alarm. How did being a part of that environment like diversify your musical exposure?
Oh, man, there were kids that came in that could sing like Jennifer Hudson. And then there were also kids that would be in the hallway performing like they were in a musical. And like the funny thing is like being around that diverse aspect prepared me to be in the real world around a bunch of different personalities and knowing how to deal with a lot of personalities while maintaining myself. Like, I never changed who I had to be around everybody. I could be in Brooklyn, like chilling out in the hood with the homies, and then at the same time be in performing arts school, hanging out with the musical theater kids, and being able to relate and keep myself through the entire thing. And I think it just really opened up my whole perspective in terms of just like what my life can be. I think there were kids that, like, just the performance aspect, they were so strong in high school. Like, we had this joke that this is around the time when Beyonce dropped, like, Single Ladies, and the girls would literally get up on the lunch tables in the living room. I mean, not the living room, in the lunchroom. And they would do the entire thing, choreography, like, the whole thing. Like, they would do it in sync and everything like that. And it was crazy to see because that aspect of being around people that are specific about their craft and are great at it opened my eyes up to, like, performance and what that can be. So, yeah.
So your high school, like, fame?
It is. And I'm not going to lie, like, a lot of people are successful at that school. We have a page called PPAS Alum. Check it out. Jeremy Allen White, I don't know if you watch The Bear. And, of course, from your show. What's your show? Shout it out. Shameless, yeah. He went to my school. Max Snyder went to my school. Alicia Keys went to PPAS. She just came back this year, actually, gave back. She came back when I was there, gave back a whole bunch of stuff. But Danielle Polanco, a whole bunch of people that came back from our school that were just, I think the essence of being a performing artist really came from PPAS.
Okay. And so moving from high school to college, you're a graduate of Temple University.
TU? Yeah.
So you were a jazz piano major there?
Yes.
And so I know sometimes, you were talking a little bit about your parents earlier, but I know sometimes, like, in the Black community, parents don't always encourage, like, majoring in the arts. So what was your journey with doing that?
They were always supportive. I'll give them that. They were always supportive. Shout out to my parents. But my mom just always kept saying, don't be a starving artist. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can do all of this, but just please don't be a starving artist. Like, she probably doesn't even remember saying it, but I do. And those little things of just, like, it made me learn the business of music. Like, I was focused. There were kids there that, you know, they were incredible on the piano, incredible on bass, drums, guitar, and just learning music. But, like, I was focused on, okay, how does this make money?
Yeah.
You know, and I'll never forget being in school, you know, looking back at, like, what I had to lose versus everyone else. I think that coming into that school, like, I had talent, but I didn't have a lot of the knowledge that they had. They're coming from high school jazz band, middle school jazz band, where this is what they were doing their whole life. Like I said, I was all over the place. Sports, dance, music, whatever I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? But I think it was coming in as the underdog, I wanted more. And I looked at it a different way. So, like, I'll never forget, shout out Tim Warfield. He's one of the professors there. And Greg Kittinger, he looked out for me too. But I was in the business of music class, which changed my whole mindset. Everything that had to do with music. And just learning about what the industry is outside of what you do.
Yeah.
Right? And we had this guy come in from the Grammy Academy. I'll never forget this. Never forget. He came in from Grammy U, and he explained what it took to be in the Grammy, the Recording Artists Academy, and kind of what the life is like as a recording musician, as an engineer, and a producer. And he told us the real. He was like, listen, back when I was doing it, everything was cool. You know, you can record, you can produce, whatever, and you'll get your checks. But in the industry today, you're going to have a side hustle. Like, you're going to have your money on the back, something coming, because your money's coming on the back end. Like, you might wait 9 months to get your money after you still have to chase it down for a record that you're doing for an artist. You need something to pay your bills in the meantime.
Yeah.
And I think that's what shifted me more towards DJing, because that was front end money. I'm working, I'm getting paid that night. So that business aspect changed my whole perspective on it.
And so I feel like you kind of maybe answered this question a little, or might have a similar answer. But for, like, Black kids that want to major in the arts, what advice would you give them?
Stick it out and be knowledgeable. Be knowledgeable first. stick it out. When I was going into this, I was laughed at. You're a music major? Do something, make some real money. Oh, you're a joke. Like, who does, that's easy. I'm majoring in engineering. I'm majoring in this, right? But the idea was that it was silly to major in something like entertainment and that you wanted secure money. But I knew from very early on that this is what I wanted to do. And I feel like it's important to know the avenues that you can take if you're disciplined in this. It's okay to do music, but don't think you're just going to rap or sing and it's just going to happen for you. Like, be knowledgeable, go to school for it, study it to learn the different avenues where you can make it.
So being someone that attended Temple University, how would you describe the Philadelphia music scene and what would you say you learned there? What is like something big that you learned there that you could not have learned in New York?
Okay. Philly's big on jazz. I love the culture of Philly jazz, the musicians. Pennsylvania as a whole, it's a big jazz-centric state. People are talented, and I think a lot of people don't know the connection between jazz and hip-hop and R&B and just how most of those musicians are the musicians that are playing for real on stage behind a Beyonce, a Jay-Z, a Jadakiss. Whoever is performing, like their live band, a lot of the time are jazz musicians or gospel musicians because we know the theory to be able to work in real time. Because real musicians, you don't get 6 months to practice for a gig. You get called the night before, and you might get sent an 8-song track list, and it's learn this by tomorrow. We have one rehearsal together, and it's the show. So you have to be able to know concepts and theories that you're taught in jazz to be able to say, I'm prepared for this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Chord structures, learning difference and dissonance sounds, and learning how to resolve different tensions in the song, and just knowing how to improvise on top of what's already laid there is kind of foundations that I learned in jazz, for sure.
And so getting into your DJ bag a little bit more
Let's
now.
do it.
So I know you started DJing in college, correct? Yeah. And so take me through your first gig. Where was it? Who was there? I want you to use all 5 senses to describe to me, like, set the scene.
First DJ gig was on 13th and Susquehanna in Philadelphia. It was dark, dirty basement. There was dust everywhere. And I'll never forget this. This was, shout out my boy Chi. He's also my live brother. Hey, Fi. But he said to me, you always know what's at play when people are in the room. Have you ever thought about DJing? I was like, yeah, I messed around with it in high school, but it was never serious. He's like, nah, let's see if you could do something. Because at that point, we were hosting parties. We were fun people. This is like 3 weeks into college. So probably by like my birthday, September 7th, by like October 9th was my first party. So maybe like September 20th. We had been going to parties and promoters on campus were like, these kids are fun. We dance. We turn the party up. Like, we were hosts at that time. Mm-hmm. We had people that were following us at the time. And he's like, nah, like, let's see if we can throw our own party. His cousin on campus, Haas, shout out to Haas. He showed love. He gave us his crib. He's like, nah, y'all want a party? I'll give him my crib. Let's see the vibe. He lived on campus, well, right off campus, and let us throw our first house party. He was like, you're the DJ. It's Tuesday. The party's Friday. Ma, please, like, they want me to DJ, but I have no equipment. She's like, go on Amazon and look for something under a certain amount of money, and I'll get it for you. So shout out to my mom.
That's so nice.
She Amazoned me something that landed Thursday for a party Friday.
Clutch.
In my head, I was so nervous about how this party was going to go. I made a playlist accounting for every single minute of the party. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking from 6:01 to 6:03. Well, not 6:03, sorry. 10:01 to 10:03. I played this song. 10:03 to... I was so detail-oriented, I never left room for creativity. Never forget, that first party I was booed. They booed me because I expected the party to turn up later than it did. Mm-hmm. They were lit by 10:30 because people rocked with us. So yeah. I'm expecting people to filter in and be lit by like 11:30, 12. It's 10:30. The basement is packed. I'm playing warm-up music. And the people that booed me don't remember they booed me because these are some of my closest friends today. I wouldn't say closest friends, but I would say like these are people that are really close acquaintances to this day. But they booed me my first party. They were like, nah, turn this up, boo. And from that moment, The next party I did, I killed it. I just was like, this is me. I'm just going to be me. Like, I'm not going to plan anything out. Like, it is what it is. That moment, Silva Soundz was born.
You said, y'all might have forgot, but I never forget. I remember who you are.
I wrote it down. Don't worry. So, yeah.
So now with over a decade of DJing experience under your belt, what would you say a DJ's number one job is? And how do you make sure in each gig that this job is done?
Read the room. Read the room. You are not the star of the show. You're the driver of the car. Your job is to get everybody to the destination. Your job is not to say, look at me, make it about me. Your job is to get everyone to the destination together. And it's about reading the room and getting everybody there. I can play for 80-year-olds. Mm-hmm. The other day I did a 5-year-old birthday party. You know what I'm saying? Those kids were turned up. You know what I mean? But it's reading the room and seeing what works for different crowds. My biggest problem, my first gig, was that I didn't read the room. Yeah. I was trying to do my own thing, and that's why it failed. I think it's just so important that you take a second, you look up, and you engage with the audience, because we get in our heads too much, and it's about them and just enjoying and sharing your gift from God with everybody else is your job. That's my gift. My gift is just I can share that with people, what I'm feeling, and we can all vibe in that together. That's my gift. You got to tap into your gift, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely learned, like, you can't just make a playlist. Yeah. Like, DJing is not making a playlist.
Cam knows you a DJ too.
Retired DJ. So
she killed it, though. I'm not gonna lie. She killed it.
It was a playlist. No. So I know you're mainly known in the city as a DJ, but like we were talking before, your roots are as a pianist. So how has your musicianship informed the way that you approach DJing?
Oh, man. A lot. I have perfect pitch. Really relative perfect pitch. But my ear is really strong. And I can hear things. Personally, I feel I hear things that other people don't. Mm-hmm. Within the music, especially because of my musical training in terms of like chords and structure and learning how to create dissonances to resolve, to do better things. I use those techniques creatively in my craft. I draw from everywhere. I draw from, I always talk about how DJing is like basketball. I take the sports aspect where it's like, I'm warming up for a game. I'm aggressive. I'm ready to go. Like, this is what it is, right? And I take from the dancing aspect of being a performer and showing, having people be able to look at you and you being entertaining. I take the musicality from jazz and learning how to resolve things and make them interesting musical moments. And then I think I take from the production aspect, just learning how to not make the frequencies clash. Take the bass out of this one and turn this one up a little bit just so it blends better and musically, sonically, it sounds better. And then I just use my musical experiences. Like, it's everything that I've been through. I'm drawing songs that you don't even think you want to hear and putting them with a song that you know you want to hear, and now you hear it differently. So that's, yeah.
DJing is hard work, because you said frequencies, EQing, and everything.
Yeah, she knows. She knows.
He knows better. I'm retired, like I said. So I know DJing has taken you all over the world, Turks and Caicos, Tanzania, Croatia. Those are just some of the places. So coming from those experiences, what would you say is the greatest element of music that translates across, regional, religious, socioeconomic, racial, language barriers?
Dancing, frequency. It's a frequency you hit when you're DJing where everyone just feels it. And I think all the places I've been in the world, language doesn't matter. Because they're playing what we're playing over here in Thailand. When I was in Thailand, Phuket, and Bangkok, like, they were playing Pop Smoke. You know what I mean? And then you go to Tanzania, and they want to hear Cardi B, but they're also playing Davido. They're also playing Mafioso. They're also playing Amapiano. Like, there's a frequency that you get, people just vibe to, and if you could find that frequency wherever you are in the world, language isn't a barrier. And we're just all one people that are just vibing to the same thing. And I think that's the lesson it taught me is, like, and also the second lesson, be you wherever you go. I'll never forget I went to Tanzania, 2021. Shout out to Ray. Escaped to Zanzibar. And I'm over here trying to play Afrobeats because I'm in Africa.
Yeah.
I'm in Africa. Bet I'm playing, giving them WizKid. These people are sitting there like this. because they've heard it. Mind you, this is the birth of Amapiano. I wouldn't say the birth of it, but at least to me in 2021, when I first heard it in Tanzania, they're vibing Amapiano, and I didn't know about that. So I think the greatest lesson of that was when I got into my bag and started playing the R&B and the hip hop, they got up. They started dancing, they started vibing because they were comfortable knowing I was comfortable. And I think that as a musician, yes, you can explore and go out of your range and explore, but be who you are and be comfortable to who you are. Don't try to play what you think someone wants to hear. I know that's conflicting because I said read the crowd. But I would say, like, play what you feel and off of the vibe for the crowd.
Yeah. And that makes sense because you're like reading the crowd, but it's different to read the crowd versus playing what you think they want to hear. Because if you play what you think they want to hear and then you're reading the room and they're like, no, we don't want to hear this. Like, oh, okay. So I'm going to go with what you guys want. And I know you're talking about like bringing a certain frequency. So like, what would you say is the key to finding this frequency?
The frequency that you're trying to find is a shared connection between the DJ and the audience. I think that there's like a beat that's in there that's like everyone can dance to. And my favorite BPM is like 90 to 100 BPM because that's two-step. That's two-step in music. That's just a common, you know, BPM range that everybody knows to dance to. That's reggae, reggaeton, that's dance hall, that's a lot of two-step and R&B music. That's a lot of Afro beats is in that range. That's just worldly music that all comes together. And I find that frequency right there allows people to dance and vibe to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to get into your producer bag.
You got it all crazy. Okay.
I told you. So you're also a producer. So when did production come into the picture for you?
High school.
So with Logic?
With Logic. GarageBand. See, this is why it's important to keep music in schools. Middle school, I learned GarageBand, and I was introduced when I was doing the 6th grade with all of the majors. And the music teacher, Mr. Gallo, taught us Logic. GarageBand is just one of the intro ways of learning how to do music production. From there, I always took GarageBand, and then from there, I learned Logic, which is like the Big Brother program of it in high school. I ran with Logic because it's a really musician-centric DAW. And I would just play my piano right into the DAW, and it would just pick up melodies that I could put down that I don't need to look for loops. And that was my thing because everybody had drums, but I had melodies all day just because of piano. And I think that I had a producer group. Shout out my boy Alex, Ricky. You know, it was a lot of JJ. Like, we had a whole production clique in high school. We used to go to Long Island City, and we went to the studio. His classical producer, whatever, put his studio on, what's that called again? What's that, like, website to get gigs? Craigslist. And looking back, it's kind of crazy. High school kids going on Craigslist to find a studio, but that's what we did.
Yeah.
And we found the studio for cheap. I think it was like, we got it for like $90 an hour back in the day. And he saw us as high school students and our love for music and gave us the studio for cheaper and just would let us rock all night. Mind you, we're like 15, 16. We're staying there till like 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? And I don't know how, my parents let me stay because I wouldn't come at 3. It was sometimes I would. But like at that time, like they knew I was there for music. I wasn't out in the streets running around gangbanging at 3 in the morning. I was in the studio making music. So they kind of really allowed that gift to kind of grow. And we would be there till like 2, 3 in the morning, just cooking up song after song after song, learning the software, learning plugins, he had an actual board. So we're learning the hardware. There was a live piano in there. I'm playing keys and recording that. We had drums in there, learning drum pads, learning the hardware of it all. And that's when the production aspect of me was really born.
And were these nights where you were in the studio, were these school nights? That sounds like
if the DOE is watching, it was not. But nah, a lot of the time it was weekends.
Okay.
For sure. It was
Allegedly.
Weekends. Allegedly, yeah.
So what's the first thing you say you focus on when making a beat?
For me, it's melody.
Yeah, you're the melody guy.
But now I'm learning pocket.
Okay.
I think the pocket's more important than the melody and the drums, because you can have good melody and you can have good drums, but if there's no pocket, the music doesn't move. And I think finding that, like, how the melody interacts with the drums is what I look for now, because that's what makes people dance. I said the frequency, but it's also the pocket, like learning how that doom, 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 and the sonics of it. Like, I get really like scientific about it, but when you really tune the frequencies, right? The sonics of hip hop, the bass beat is supposed to hit you in the chest. The way you're supposed to tune the bass, boom. And then the snare is supposed to be tuned to where you hear it kind of in the back of your head. And that whole form of like, this how we listen to music is kind of just, that's sonic and scientific, and the way the drums are tuned and the snare is tuned in a way to where you're kind of bobbing to the music. That's all doctored. It's all scientific.
Okay. That's
so,
okay.
You know what I mean? So like that whole pocket of dancing and feeling, that's frequencies being activated.
And so I feel like that kind of touches on my next question, but I know we were talking about how, like, being creatives, you can, you know, be in the studio, let's say one night, and you're just really in a creative space. Like, I'm feeling really creative right now. And you make a beat, you're like, this beat is fire. And then the next day you wake up like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So, like, when you're producing, like, how would you say you know that you have something, like, for real, like, hot on your hands?
Oh, when I wake up the next day and I'm not like, what is this?
Yeah,
like, because you know that feeling of when you wake up.
Many times where you're like, I am God's gift to music, and then you wake up like, this is terrible.
Yeah. What is this? Yeah. I think it's that, and I think when I started being able to hear other people on the music is when I knew it was finished. So when I'm like, okay, I hear someone else's voice on top of a melody I produce, the melody's finished. When I hear the drums and I hear a rapper that can rap over these type of drums, the drums are finished. Because now I've created this instrument that's supposed to go with this instrument. The voice is an instrument as well. And how it interacts with the drums is the pocket I was talking about. We have producers, we have a knack to just add until it's never finished. You know what I'm saying? But just the idea of being able to say this is enough, for sure. I think that's what's most important, is being able to know when to stop.
Yeah, it's like you have to leave enough room for melody. It's like too much happening. I don't even know where my voice is supposed to go.
Exactly.
So who would you say are your top 3 favorite producers, and what is the biggest influence they've all had on your own personal production style?
Ryan Leslie, Just Blaze, Jay Dilla. Ryan Leslie was my favorite producer from start, and I got to meet him in high school, actually. It's just, we were, skipping school.
Say that into the mic?
No, it's cool. The fans is watching. But we would go sometimes, because we were allowed to go out for lunch in high school. And we might have stayed a little too long at lunch, but we're walking down the block, and I think leaving the Paramount building was Ryan Leslie. He's walking, and I'm walking. I'm like, wait a minute. Are you Ryan Leslie? He's like, yeah, young man, how are you? I said, I'm good. How are you? I was like, yo, you're one of my favorite producers. I look up to you. I'm a pianist just like you, and I create just like you. He goes, pull out your phone. Pull out my phone. And at the time, I thought I was special. And I don't know if the camera can see it. So yeah, there it is. At the time,
got his number?
He gave me his number. We can blur it out later. But he gave me his number at the time. And I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Like, I'm about to be up. This is over. Like, forget school. I'm out of here, right?
I'm not coming back.
This happened to be the same time that he gave everyone his number.
Yeah.
Direct to consumer, which was genius. And actually texted me back. And I thought it was so cool. And just learning that, like, Ryan Leslie has the biggest impact, because there's videos on YouTube of just the making of him making Addiction. And just that using the drums over here, and just he's laying down the melody. That's how I produce. Let me do the melody here. Let me fill the pocket with the drums. Let me lay down this drum pattern. I'm laying down vocals for the reference artist. Like, that's how I produce. That's how he produces. And watching it back in the day was so amazing because I'm like, yo, like, this is everything I want to do. And it's possible. And then to meet him was just like, nah, this was otherworldly.
Just Blaze. J Dilla.
Just Blaze. I'm a Jay-Z fan. You know, that's my favorite rapper. Being from Brooklyn too. Just Blaze had a way of sampling with drums. Just he would have a sample, but the drums were just in the pocket. And he would use a lot of live drum samples where he could either clip them up there or have someone play. And I just remember I took my drums from him of learning how to like that pocket and that like punch of the drums and just how the beat hit, pause. And then but the idea was that the musicality wasn't lost with all the drum programming, and that's what I took from him. And then J Dilla, just a master of production and everything. He did, rest in peace to J Dilla. If you ever get a chance, go on YouTube and watch old J Dilla like songs and albums. Like his musicality was out of this. He was ahead of his time with the stuff he was doing, like sonically. It was crazy. I don't think he played, but he would take an MPC and spread a mood keyboard out on the 12 pads and program them one at a time and do 5-6 tracks and then link them together, and he was making chords. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's not playing it. It's one note at a time of just learning how those notes interact. Yeah. And then with the drums and finding different samples, it's just the perfect pocket. Like J Dilla was a master.
And so we all know, like we were just talking about different producers, but like producers that live in certain pockets like that, you know, without a doubt that it's them, like the K-Tronatas, the Neptunes, you said J Dillas of the world. So how would you say that your life experiences has helped create your own unique sound as a producer? And what words would you use to describe the Silva sound?
I like that.
Yeah, you see what I did there.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm always going to have some aspect of live music somewhere, whether if it's live keys, whether if it's some horns, whether if it's some strings. There's always going to be an aspect of live music. But I also think there's a focus on feeling there. Like, I don't make beats, YouTube-style beats, like that anyone can jump on. I create with the energy in the room. Or someone particularly in the room or someone in mind, but like it's like a puzzle piece. Like that piece doesn't just fit with anybody. It got to be the right artist and the right sound, or I'm making it for this artist, and because it's for this artist, someone else could rap on it, but it might not fit that way. Yeah. Just because I'm tuning things and doing things in ways of like specifically for this vibe and this thing. So that's really what sticks out.
Okay.
Silva's sound is some exclusive-ish.
Exclusive. It's catered to the person it's for.
For sure.
And so we've gone through some of your life, you know, musically, your many talents. Like I said, pianist, DJ, producer. You said dancer, singer.
Yeah.
But you're also a businessman. You're creative. Many things you didn't even touch on. But coming from Brooklyn, I know you mentioned Jay-Z is your favorite. So watching his journey as a musician, an entrepreneur, businessman, etc., how has that influenced the way you move as a multi-hyphenate? And are there any other multi-hyphenates you look to for inspiration?
Oh, yeah. I think that what made Jay great wasn't just the music. It was the overall understanding of hip-hop. He knew that it wasn't just the music. It was rock-aware, too. It was, you know, the businessman aspect of being a mogul, that idea of just, like, boss, you know, that boss mentality. But also, like, he was artistic. Like, as you look at the evolution of Jay-Z, right? Like, even from the Blueprints, you're getting into Blueprint 3 was probably my favorite album. Just if you look at the cover, the white background with like the instruments all over, like jumbled up with like the red 3, like it was so much artistry in that. and just learning the different sounds that he was able to pull. And it didn't even sound like old Jay-Z. It was something completely brand new, and just the evolution of how he grew. If we're looking at Watch the Throne album, like him and Kanye is a beast, a monster when it comes to production, with bringing in new sounds and new vibes. But Jay was able to keep up with that and be able to kind of cement his own vibe with that album. And I think it was just so dope. Like, never forget Otis. Like, we all talk about this moment, but like being in New York and hearing Otis and Funk Flex run it back like 50 times. 50 times he ran the song back on the radio. This is prime Hot 97. I'm not going to say prime, but it kind of was at the time. And he was telling, yo, go in your store, stick your hand in the register, take out the money and say it's yours. That was the energy of that record. And I just remember that. And Murder to Excellence? That song was like my soundtrack for that year. And I think that Jay-Z just knows how to position himself in a moment in time to cement that time. That album is timeless. So is Blueprint 3. So is Blueprint 1. So is Reasonable Doubt. It was a period piece of the time. I think he knows how to do that. Rockaway is not lit now, but back in the day, it was lit. It was a staple. You got to know where to put yourself in history.
So you'd say like timelessness, knowing where to put yourself, and then like evolution. And then, so like I said, being a multi-hyphenate, they say the jack of all trades is the master of none, but you're really good at a lot of different things. So have you been able to flourish and pour into all of these different creative outlets without neglecting them?
Yeah, no. There's this podcast I listened to a couple years ago. It was with, I'm not blanking her name right now. Amanda Seales' podcast. And she talks about how she's a multi-hyphenate. She does a lot of things. She's also a DJ, but also an impactful speaker, actress, everything, whatever. But she said, and I'll never forget this episode, the key to being a multi-hyphenate is having the key that threads everything. So you need one single theme that threads everything that you do. For me, it's music. So I call myself the musical multi-hyphenate because I'm musically consulting. I do music production. I'm a DJ. I also music program, but also like when production in terms of like video production, I do a lot of work when it comes to, like how to show off and break music through new artists, through Amplify and stuff like that. So finding your way through being a multi-hyphen is finding the one key that threads everything. And I think the overall thread for me was just music. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. And so as a Black man in America, how would you say that you use your different creative outlets to tell your story? And is there anything that you feel like you're unable to express in words that you can express through the music?
Yeah, for sure. I was angry for a while. And I used to be able to just let it out in the music, and that was like my favorite part about it. And I'm glad you asked that question, because I kind of forgot about that. For real. Like, that was like my release. I would just go to the piano and just let it out, like, for like hours. It's rough, because like emotions-wise, like, being a Black man, like, people always tell you how to be. You know what I'm saying? And like, they have these archetypes of what a Black man's supposed to look like, and it might not look like me. Like, Barack Obama is like the archetype of like the successful Black man, but like, he doesn't look like me. He doesn't, like, he speaks well, but that's not how I talk. It's not how I dress. You know what I mean? It's not like the embodiment of everything. I mean, yeah, there's some things that I would like to take from him, but the embodiment of what, I want to be might be a little different. And I think that my music allows me to show that and express so many different parts of myself. There's the rough side, there's the soft side, there's the creative side, there's the funny, laughable, fun side. I think my music allows me to kind of just, it's like therapy. It just allows me to get it all out of like how I'm feeling that day. Sure.
I love that. And I think it's important, like, to have that as an outlet to express yourself. And that's what makes art beautiful.
That's a good question, Kim.
I be coming with the questions. And so would you still say, because I know you've told me before that you wanted to be, I don't know if this is still true, to be a musical director.
Yeah,
is that
sure.
still your ultimate goal?
Absolutely.
And so how would you say that like all of your musical experiences, life experience so far has helped, navigate towards that?
Shout out to Adam Blackstone. I got to meet him a couple times, and we actually connected a couple times through BT Awards and a couple last years. But watching his career and watching what you're able to do as a musical director, like in this life, we don't talk about it enough. It's like, especially, it's hard to have a family and do music. It's hard to, and be there. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to, I'm in the clubs DJing, I'm traveling the world DJing every other weekend, and I'm out the state and on planes a couple times a month. But if I had a child, I'm childless right now, but if I had a kid, how many times would I really be there for my child? How many times would I be there for my wife? You know what I'm saying? But the idea is that I've watched his career to where he's doing, I mean, I don't know everything that he's doing, but he's doing the largest tentpoles, BT Awards, Super Bowl halftime show, NBA All-Star Weekend, like, just sometimes the Grammy Band. Just watching him do the largest tentpoles in the world and being able to see his family there, or being able to be, you know what I'm saying? Because you could, at that point, you're doing at the highest level. You can choose whether you want to be on the road all these weekends, and you can be, how can you say it? You can be selective on when you want to go do other things. And I think the musical director aspect is a lane, because it's like I can collate all my knowledge from music and all the things I've gotten from DJing and being on the road and production and working at BT, the business side, and collate it into knowing how to direct something for a large tentpole for music, who to hire, who to call, how to interpret this music, and leading that, right? Mm-hmm. While also not having to be in the clubs. Right. You know what I mean?
Like
and not,
50.
At 50. Like, and there's no knock to people that are older in the club. Shout out to all the older DJs.
Yeah,
but
shout
just
out.
like, you know what I mean? I have respect, but just be honest. Like, at a certain point, I want a family. I want to be able to come home to my kids and not be absent. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that watching, sometimes he'll have his kids on the field, or just like, you know what I'm saying? Or just watching IG of just family being there, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so interesting to me, like, watching that. And I'm just like, that's so dope. That's possible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's something I really look up to.
Yeah, and I think it's cool. Like, musical director, you kind of have to have a wider lens view.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say, like, with all your experience, you definitely have a very wide view. Like, like the business, the creative side, the technical side,
Yeah.
So that's important. So what's up next for Silva Soundz? And so what can we expect from you in the future? Like the near future, long future?
I got you. I'm getting back into my production for sure. Heavy back on that, using Ableton, using Logic. I mean, I'm going to try to create some new beats into new songs and showcase that on IG. I think I'm also, this is going to be cool for you. It's like an exclusive, but I'm not going to do a news special, but it's going to be like me sharing my thoughts on the industry. I'm going to do that for social media moving forward. So I ordered this cool little Silva Soundz neon sign for my room, and like, it's going to be really, really dope. Like, I'm telling you, like, it's going to be a nice little setup, but I'm going to be like doing like, not a newscast, but just like a real life. This is what's like moment in the industry, what's going on, my perspective on that, and me speaking with expertise on certain issues, because y'all get online and say some crazy stuff. You know? For people to have so many outside opinions and not be knowledgeable on like processes that happen, I think are problematic. And I'm not saying that I'm giving out the sauce or giving details on what we do on our day-to-day, but I think it's important to give people information on the process of things. A lot of people don't even know, even for like Grammys and all these award shows, there's a time period of whether you can submit music, which makes things eligible for that award. People don't know that. And things might miss that window and be eligible next year or the year prior. And they're wondering, why isn't this nominated for this? Y'all are haters. Y'all never, but it didn't fit within that window. You know what I'm saying? And there are things that, as the industry, if people were more knowledgeable, they can get a wider lens on how to approach certain conversations. I definitely kind of want to at least offer some of my insight on what the industry is doing.
And you're definitely good voice to say that.
I appreciate it.
Definitely know what's going on. And then lastly, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to share, but before, can you tell us where to follow you on socials, where to find whatever you want to tell us?
Absolutely. I'm at Silva Soundz, SilvaSoundz, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, deleted my Twitter, but it might come back soon. And on YouTube, and on SoundCloud, Silva Soundz Productions on SoundCloud. I'm everywhere. I'm doing everything. So hope to see you soon.
Yes. And thank you for coming today. We had a great conversation.
Shout out to Cam, man. Yeah.
Yay.
This was dope. You were an amazing interviewer. Like, I felt comfortable. I could be myself. So thank you.
Thank you. And if you from New York and you don't know Silva Soundz, you got to get in the streets.
Come outside.
Yeah, because he's going to turn you up.
Nah, it's going to be lit. I got a couple things coming up, so follow me on IG. And I'm going to have a website coming soon where you can follow all my stuff. So
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is Angle of Sound Podcast.
Oh,
I already said it at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, I don't know what to say. He gave me a good thumb.